Welcome to Tabletop Tactics. Folks, welcome back to Tabletop Tactics with myself, Lawrence, and pal, Mr. Beards. That's right, we're in the house, and today the house is green as we do the second of the Colors of Chaos video by Army Showcase videos by Siege Studios, where we showcase 3 chaotically colored armies painted by Siege Studios. Today it is green, it is Death Guard, and we're going to do a showcase for you.
They stink.
They stink, but they look beautiful. So that's all that counts, right? So here it is. We got a rather large commission of Death Guard back in the day. Beard, why don't you hit me up with some questions about it? Because I know that we get lots of questions all the time in the comments, like, how did you paint this? What's the recipe? You know, do you have any guides on it? And a lot of the armies we have painted, but a lot of the armies actually we commissioned through Siege Studios. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to answer some of those questions and do a showcase at the same time.
Well, this one came after Black Legion, which was very stylized. There was lots of different elements for lots of different legions. They sort of became their own war band because that's how Black Legions roll. Yeah. The Death Guard came out after the Thousand Suns. So this was like the next army to come out with like a whole revamp, which really hadn't really happened before. And Thousand Suns was very, very popular. So did any of the Thousand Suns elements go into how you commissioned this one, or was this its own thing?
Well, there were similarities. So the way it works with Siege is basically you hit them up with saying, look, I want X models painted, you know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. If you're a channel like us, generally you want 5,000 to 6,000 points minimum, so you get the variety in a battle report. They'll give you a quote back. And then what you do is you fill out a full spec sheet. And then in that spec sheet, you break down, you know, magnetization, what you want the bases to look like, what's the color scheme, you know, do you have any pictures, reference pictures of things that they might match, or references that you might want the scheme to look like, or artists you might want it to look like. Now, what was interesting about this project is the Thousand Suns, I just let them just do what they wanted. They were a bit of a strange army in the fact that Rubricae, you kind of want to be uniform. There shouldn't be too much individuality in them, really, because they're supposed to be automatons. Although I suppose you could go down that path and have all like runes on them and stuff, but I didn't specify in that project. In this project, though, this was an interesting one with Siege because I had actually painted the core Death Guard force. So when the Death Guard first came out in the box set, was it Age of Darkness? No, not Age of Darkness, it's Heresy. It was the...
Dark Vengeance.
Dark Vengeance, there we go. The Death Guard's quick fit, quick click kits in there were the first Death Guard models we got. And I was like, right, we need to paint these as quickly as possible. So I actually did them. And then I added like 3 Hellbrutes, the Forge World ones. I had a bunch of Forge World Plague Marines that we inserted as well. And got together quite a nice little force relatively quickly. I ended up with like 2,500 points that I painted myself for the channel. But as the newer kits kept coming out, things like the Plague Burst Crawlers, the Fetid Bloat Drones, of course, the big man himself, you know, although incidentally Siege didn't paint that one for us. But all of the plethora of characters and the Poxwalkers was like, right, well, this is going to take me a long, long time to paint. There were so many other things to do that I did hit up Siege and I was like, right, I'm interested in getting the Death Guard done, but I don't want to disregard everything that I've painted because that would be a waste. So this spec sheet was actually quite specific. I was like, these are the colors I've used. I need you to match what I've done. You can take some inspiration and add some bits and, you know, perhaps create some interesting spot colors, which I didn't have time to do, but they've got to fit in with what I've done. And so they got back to me and they're like, yeah, we can do this. Gave me a couple of examples and they managed to match that because I created the spot color on the Death Guards because they have all of this flesh, this massy, hideous like growths, sinew and bulbous, bits of fat just hanging off them, and just like mutation basically. And I thought, well, that would be a great spot color to put, put some blood and pustules and all this sort of jazz, which gives you something interesting to look at other than just green. And they match that perfectly. And then they hit the reds that I did with the cloaks and so forth, but then they took it a step further, which is quite interesting. So they've picked out all of the individual pustules and boils and added orange in there, which is nice. But then they added things like, well, let's change the smoke colors. Let's like have purple fire or purple smoke and incense and blue, and some of that really more bright colors that will create like real spot interest amongst the otherwise green tide of the Death Guard. And yeah, overall the project was, I think we did approximately another 3,000 to 4,000 points with them. We ended up getting like 60 Poxwalkers. It took about 3 to 4 months, as I recall. We did the Myphitic Blight, we did the Haulers, exactly, the Fetid Bloat Drones, Plague Burst Crawlers, and we ended up actually going back to Siege, which you'll be seeing all of these miniatures come up on screen, with a second phase later on where I got the Terminators done, and we got these Defilers done as well, which a lot of custom work has gone into. So yeah, I mean, look, why don't you tell me what units that you like and the things that stand out for you in the Force?
I do like the Defilers. Interestingly, the Death Guard, because if you compare it to the Thousand Suns, which is quite heavily magnetized,
right.
The Death Guard, you can't really magnetize the Death Guard because of the way the kits are built.
Yeah.
So we've sort of ended up with quite a lot of different units. So you've got combat-only Plague Marines and shooty-only Plague Marines and things like that. But you do have some units like this, where they've really gone to town on the customization. Yeah. So I don't personally like the Defiler kit myself.
It's very old and dated.
It's very old. It looks very goofy. Yeah. But what they've done with these ones are really fun. So they put on quite a lot of what I'm presuming is green stuff or milliput.
Yeah.
And this guy has just turned into a giant nurgling Defiler, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I like this one's a great unclean one.
Yeah.
In there, which is really, really cool.
It looks very 80s, no CGI horror. Very.
Yeah, a bit John Carpenter inspired.
Yeah. It's very, very cool. Very cool. So they've done a really good job at sort of like making these quite individualistic rather than just making it like a green Defiler, which is brilliant.
Because it's quite easy to just go, right, well, here's the same vehicle, copy and paste 3 times, and it can look a bit bland, but actually the Defilers feel like real characters, which is a lovely thing for the artist to do. Take a bit of that personalized inspiration and put it on them.
They really fit with the rest of the army. Like there's nothing in here that feels like it's sort of tacked on, which is nice.
No.
What I really like is the Poxwalkers.
Yeah,
so the Poxwalkers are completely different from everything else. There's no green armor on them, which makes them stand out a bit. But the colors they've used do kind of blend in enough to the rest of the army. So
they still feel part of it, don't they?
Definitely. They don't look like just general Poxwalkers that have just been lobbed onto the army. They do kind of all meld together quite nicely.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like to take the opportunity to, like, they've got some, some more vibrant colors in the clothing, but it goes with like an industrial sort of jumpsuit feel, which works quite well, like the orange fatigues there, which I think is really, really nice touch. And then of course you've got the pops of all of the pustules and everything, which is just pretty nasty. Yeah. But yeah, again, like with the Black Legion project they did, these spots of color to add the purples and the blues in, on the flames and the smoke and the incense, and things like the attention to detail on some of the characters. Like one of my favorite characters is the, I always forget the name of this one. The Bile Spewer?
I think he's a Noxious Blightbringer.
Nauseous Blightbringer? Yeah, that's it. Anyway, he's got this vat on his back, and you can see that the vat, the glass looks like it's been painted like glass. You put obviously a light sheen of gloss varnish over it, but they've painted in this horrible orange oil. Well, it looks like pus, really, pus-like substance, which is then flowing through this intestine and then dripping out the intestinodes and dripping out the other side. Things like that, they've taken the extra time to paint, and that's a detail that really pops on the tabletop for me, while still matching the green of the rest of my scheme, which I thought was really nice. Again, some complementary things on, greens. Any color can look flat unless you grade it properly. And Siege tends to use a lot of brush work as opposed to airbrush work, but they use the airbrush in a quite complementary way. So they've graded the green, and you've got a little bit of a zenith sort of highlight to give it a bit of you know, a bit of depth. And then they've what I really like with what the artist has done here is the edge highlights, which, you know, sort of done in that traditional Games Workshop way, have been done a bit dirtier on these,
yeah,
and used a bit like chips on things like especially the plate burst crawlers.
Yes.
You can really see, it feels like the green highlights are there, and they're there to help give the green depth, but they also look like chips and weathering and complementing the rust and the general decrepitness of those tanks, as you would expect on the Death Guard vehicle.
It's very neat painting, but it also looks very gross.
Yeah,
which is appropriate.
It's just a talent, right? To manage to blend the both together. So look, that's it. That's our showcase of the Death Guard. You would have seen lots of beautifully painted miniatures across the battlefield. If you're interested in getting yourself an army commissioned by Siege Studios, be sure to click the link that we have in our description below. It will take you to their contact form where you can hit them up, make an inquiry about a commission. If you're interested in the standard that we went for the silver standard, didn't we? Because that's like, they've got bronze, silver, gold and platinum. The gold and platinum are really sort of display standards / competition standards. Silver is like what they call like tabletop plus. Bronze is like tabletop,
yeah,
but even the bronze is still actually a very high standard. You've had some commissions with bronze.
I've got a few bronze bits. I've got a Lamb Raider and a few forge things done in bronze. Bronze is good.
Bronze is good.
But if you sort of, I mean, this is it, isn't it? This, if you want a silver tier army, this is exactly what it is. Gold is amazing, but be prepared to pay far more and wait far longer for it to be done. Platinum is pretty much just going to be your real hero cabinet.
Yeah, I know some people like to go for like silver characters. They spend a bit more time on the characters, but they go bronze everything else.
Yeah.
So you know, you can kind of get a nice mix and a bit more budget friendly there as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, that has been our Death Guard, the second of our armies in the Colours of Chaos by Siege Studios. For now, I've been Lawrence, you've been Beard, and we'll see you in another video very soon. Bye for now.